Hi everyone, I wanted to make a video dealing with some of the things that are happening this week in politics in America. My last video seemed to catch on like wildfire, really, because I mentioned that CNN edited the interview with Ron Paul, and then all of a sudden that was the big story, that it was an edited interview and it didn't really go down like they tried to make it go down. So these are some things that I'm noticing this week. While the news on the internet and the story on the internet is really the fact that CNN had a edited interview and this fake journalism, and YouTube, there's like a million hits on videos of the unedited interview. The story on all the major news networks is the newsletters still, and it's kind of funny. They will not be satisfied with Ron Paul until he teams up with Dr. Brown, travels back in time, and stops those statements from ever being printed. And the more I looked into it, it's actually quite difficult to find where they're getting this. It's just rehashed stuff. Because there's so many newsletters printed, and the percentage of the negative things that you can find out of the newsletters is actually pretty small. Dr. Paul said it was like 1% of 1%. That might be pretty accurate when you look through all the pages and pages that he published about hard money and economics in general. Next up is, with the Iowa caucuses quickly approaching, the predictions about what's going to happen, and looking at the polling data, I think it's pretty clear that Ron Paul's going to win the caucuses, and I think he's going to actually have a blowout and just really destroy Romney and Gingrich in the caucus. But what's funny to me is what the story is, and I've heard it several different places, is Rick Santorum and how he might do in the caucuses, and how a 5th place finish for Rick Santorum would be a big boost. And like, when I hear this, I mean, it's almost crazy to me. You're looking at a race, and the guy who comes in 5th, that's who you want to watch. And just to be clear, that means that he finishes behind Ron Paul, Mitt Romney, Newt Gingrich, and Rick Perry, who is 1, 2, 3, and 4 right now, according to polling data. And the only people he beats out is Michelle Bachmann and John Huntsman. And John Huntsman isn't even campaigning in Iowa. I mean, he's just pretty much written it off and started focusing on New Hampshire, where he thinks he can have a stronger showing. So if Santorum finishes better than one person running against him, then it's a victory. I just don't get it. Next off is how nasty people are going after Ron Paul and Ron Paul's supporters. Dick Morris and Newt Gingrich basically saying that if you support Ron Paul, you're not decent, you're un-American, you're unpatriotic, and it's pretty crazy. And I don't think that actually hurts Ron Paul. It actually helps him, because if you support Ron Paul like I do, you support him because of message. You support him because of things that he said he stood for, things that he said he's going to do, and you believe that he's actually going to do the things that he says. Last off is what I think is going to happen in the Republican Party, that people just aren't going to catch on until, the media isn't going to catch on until it's really too late. People are going to start abandoning these other candidates, and they are not going to go to Mitt Romney. They are not going to go to Newt Gingrich. When they jump ship from Huntsman, Santorum, and Bachmann, they're going to go to Ron Paul's camp. And, that's the simple fact. They're going to realize that Bachmann can't win basically because she says too many goofy things, and she is not building a populist movement, but kind of building a Michelle Bachmann movement, and it's not really picking up any traction. Santorum is a go along to get along Republican neoconservative. I mean, his record speaks for itself. I mean, he backs Arlen Specter over Pat Toomey. Things he gets through. I mean, he goes along to get along, gets things passed, and it's like, oh, they're big victories. And when they had the revolts of throw everyone out, he got thrown out of the Senate. So he's not going to pick up any traction. And John Huntsman is maybe the most politician-y of all the Republican candidates. So I don't see him getting any traction. But when people start jumping ship, they're not going to Gingrich from that crowd. They're not going to go to Mitt Romney. They're going to Ron Paul or Rick Perry. So those are the four people that are going to be in. And as when Rick Perry drops out, which I kind of predicted that he would drop out later in the race, his support's going to fall behind, Ron Paul. And, they don't want to admit it, but right now, myself included, people are very dissatisfied with the way things are. Status quo, big government, pat each other on the back, give each other big raises, and basically the country goes nowhere. And Ron Paul's the biggest protest we can throw out, and the best way we can voice that we want something different from our government.